Welcome to Let's Talk BD podcast, powered by the BD School.
How are you? How is everything going?
Dude, pretty busy. In a good way, like not super busy, but nice and momentum busy. More clients, and then a lot of the AI stuff, really, just like diving into using a lot of the strategies that I would normally take for clients and take me 20 hours. I can now systemize to execute and go even further. Like when I do go to market strategies or support clients with development of that strategy, I help them and then I have them implement it. Now with AI, I can actually help some parts of the implementation. They still have to do the work because the the deal sizes that they're closing are high touch. So they're not just spam, send out 100 emails a day.
Yeah.
But it's pretty fascinating.
So yeah, you told me that you're working on some business development strategies with your clients as well. So what type of BD and what type of things are you doing with them?
Yeah, so I mean, just the way that I develop business development strategies are through the years figuring out what's the go to market, what is the differentiator, and what is something that can make us relevant when we actually go to market. I have a simple diagram that I use, and this is a framework that I've developed around you need to make sure that you have the right segment that you're targeting and that it aligns with your business and the business model. A lot of the times we just want to target the segment that's the hottest or the one that's the most trends or the highest growth, but it doesn't really align. Like, do we love doing the work there? Because when I work with companies, like they're doing bigger hands-on projects, minimum 6, 7 figure relationships, some multi-million dollar relationships. And the whole idea is like, does this fit our business model? But then that's just one part of the segment. The other area is around, well, if they fit our business model and they fit the culture that we want to work with them and we like working with that type of client, what makes it relevant for us to work with them? What are the pain points that they're actually facing right now that makes it worthwhile for us to actually go to market to them and either advertise, inbound outreach, build relationships, build content for them specifically? And the reason I call this focus around relevance is when you hit those pain points. I've had this happen to me where a prospect, now a client, came to me, is like, oh, this is the right time for this. And it wasn't because I was some sort of genius. It was because I was hitting specific pain points that they were facing in their company. But that's part of the strategy as well. And the third, it's the offer. And it's not just the offer, like what you say in the emails or what you say in the intro. It's more about like, what are you packaging around your perspective or unique take? Can you give something away for free? Do you have any workshops? Do you have anything that can actually help them move forward in their journey, your prospect's journey, even if they never worked with you? And here we also talk about like offer creation for front end offers. Sometimes some clients can't think beyond the problems they have on their desk. I have one personal client that I'm mentoring and coaching. He sells video. And one of the clients that he was talking to is like, I want to do this ongoing podcast video thing. I can't think about that. I have 20 YouTube videos right now. What can you do with that? So instead of trying to sell the recurring ongoing stuff, we were focusing on like, well, let's solve this problem right now, earn the right to work with you in the future so that we can have a continuity engagement for a long-term engagement. So it's important to figure out what is the thing that you're going to differentiate when you go to market. What does the offer look like there? What is the thing that you can give them that's going to give them value, regardless if they ever work with you or not? Sometimes we brainstorm strategy sessions, workshops, live workshops, trainings, whatever is necessary given the market that you're entering. And then what is that front end packaged solution that you can offer, even if it's a one-off project, even if it's just like a small little engagement for them to build relationship with you before you start selling the ongoing subscription or retainer. And that's that I don't know, ball of BD.
Yeah.
that strategy itself, I did by hand, I did, with clients, and it takes a long time. And now with AI, we're able to go even deeper in our insights, in our nuanced takes, in our relevance, because of what we're able to do, not just with deep research, but also in timeliness and figuring out signals in the marketplace. Like, oh, this company on their last earnings call mentioned this trigger word. You should probably look into that because it relates to our service or product.
Yeah, and that's good. Yes, there was in a session with the student about the the point of giving value, right, to companies, like to potential clients. And it was he's working for this company now for a couple of years. He's doing BD, and it's like, well, like at some point I suggested to give this report for free to our to these leads, to these prospects, so that at least we could give them something. But my manager really didn't like the idea, so then he didn't want to do it. But then eventually he did do it, and I was like, but why wouldn't he want to do it? Like if you have an asset that is there and you think can add value to a customer, why wouldn't you do that? So that for me was a little bit strange. Did it ever happen to you, that, you had some customers that were a little bit like secretive, let's say, with their things, I just don't want to do things for free. They just want the big money, but without really putting the effort or something.
Yeah, I think it's the call to relationship. Every time that I talk about outreach, like I've never seen, I was actually thinking about this when I was showering this morning. I've never had outreach fail me. Like this relationship that we're on here, I think I cold outreached you on LinkedIn like ages ago.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that was it. But the whole idea, people try to go straight, like to my earlier point, where they want to go sell the continuity subscription retainer, the higher package thing that's going to last like a year, 3 years of relationship. They want to go straight to that, but they first forget, I got to build a relationship first. So any kind of all this relationship building strategy, business development stuff is around focusing on that person and their particular job function, what they're trying to solve, and the problems that they're trying to figure out today, not the problems that you want them to buy from you because it's going to benefit you tomorrow. So I actually like to think about, instead of calling them marketing qualified leads, I call them marketing qualified relationships, sales qualified leads to sales qualified relationships. And everything we're trying to figure out is like, is this worth building a relationship with? Because at the end of the day, when you differentiate with all the AI SDRs, with all the spam emails that you and I are getting, or boxes and LinkedIn, when you see all that happening, at the end of the day, the one thing that we can't replace is building a real human, authentic relationship. So that time where you waste, quote unquote, waste time with the prospect talking about, oh, what do you like? What was your high collect this morning? And try to find relevant points and figure out, okay, they're human, they're down to earth. Now we can talk business. I think that's coming back even further. But not just that, like those are people who are, when you do that right, you build a relationship that you're going to get the end game that you wanted from the very beginning. You just got to take it a little bit slower. You don't have to go and fight because you didn't meet quota.
Yes. Yeah, no, totally. And like on this point of the relationships, like this a few days ago when we talked again on LinkedIn, and then we said, well, let's do a podcast. I was about to write a LinkedIn post, then I didn't do it. I found it was too cheesy. But I was like, I really felt like I was telling about personal stuff and so on. And I feel like with some people, that I met on LinkedIn among you, but there's so many other people, like I feel we're like friends, we never met in person, right? But we have so many things in common. We talked already a few times. So I don't know, I feel like can open up, right? And I think many people really overlook this aspect. They really just want to go straight to the point. And also what's really like, which I don't understand, it's like, it seems like, especially in the B2B world, right? It seems like we're talking to these people like CEOs, CTOs and so on, as if they were like aliens, It's like, yeah, I have to talk to the CEO. Like, yeah, okay, but the CEO is a person, on Sunday, he probably goes to the gym. I don't know, he goes to tennis, he has kids, he has to bring them to school. I don't know, like.
You just walk around my neighborhood. Yeah. I went on a walk on my neighborhood here. There's probably a few CTOs in this neighborhood. And I walked, and they're just normal people. I see their garages. We wave hi. We walk. I was walking my dog. Like, walking your neighborhood and just pretend like those are my prospects. Like this is their life. So when I cold email them, or I message them, or I call them, or I reach out to them, or I bring in them an ad and they come into my funnel and we jump on a call, like that's your prospect. And because we have screens, it's kind of impossible to relate to that anymore. But just go walking your neighborhood like I did this morning.
Yeah. And one tip I also recommend to all our students is actually to go on not networking events per se, but really like big conferences, those like super big conferences where you have like, I don't know, 3-5 days of conference, and to go to all the parties afterwards, because people, they always go crazy, like I think like it's that time of the year, in which they're away from their family, wives, husbands, kids, and they can go crazy. And I met like so many cool people, and I really became friends with some of our clients, in the past. And I was like, okay,
because you're the one hosting the parties, I can definitely tell.
Oh, let's say I could convince people to go partying. That yes. Say I mean I would launch like short like challenges, these kind of things. Like okay, let's go crazy. But I mean it's really cool because then you really see them under another perspective. And I think especially in the B2B side, we really tend to forget that they're people at the end of the day. So we just want to go straight, like which I think because you mentioned like the spam emails before, that's really the typical case of people on LinkedIn, like they send you this request and like I still like feel like
And then you're nervous, like when is the pitch coming? When is the pitch coming?
but usually after 2 seconds after you accept it. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, oh, nice. And then it's like, oh, yeah, do you need this? No, thanks. Okay. I mean, I do maybe bit the opposite mistake, which is like I connect with people and then I get so busy that I actually forget to get in touch with them after. So this to me, it happens. I find also LinkedIn is not super user friendly in that sense, in the sense that, even if you connect with someone today, it's not that then you have a reminder, like, hey, send them a message or something like that. But I am guilty. I am guilty of this. But before actually you were mentioning something related to the signals, right? And you said, well, I use, tech and so on to really be relevant. That is something, I experimented a bit with some tools and so on. But what is your strategy there? Really like to understand when you're relevant to potential clients, like what are some signals? I mean, you don't have to disclose your entire strategy, right? And secrets, but, just the little tips, so to really see how you can actually, what are the things that are important to know to understand if a client is ready
Let's
or
dive in.
interested.
We have to dive in. We'll dive into anything. So this is the most important piece that I think is missing in the marketplace right now. It's the thinking before the action. Right now, we're all focused on the action. Let me set up my email domains, my subdomains, my mailboxes, my warm mail, and then from there, my outreach sequences, the copy. We're all focused on that. And that is very, very important. But if you miss out on actual thinking, the thinking that we just talked about, and we can easily gloss over it, I'm going to give you exactly what I do. It's a 6-step process. So we need to figure out specifically within your target market, within your segment, you want to be very specific. This is per segment. This is per, because most of my clients, they don't have one niche. The riches in the niches is true, but it also, it's, you can scale without being in one niche. Most of my clients have anywhere from 3 to 5, all the way more than, I think, 8 different industries that they're in. So with that being said, you need to pick one industry. Which industry has the highest relevance and the highest pain point where you solve a problem for them? It's an asymmetrical relationship, meaning the dollars that they give you are low compared to the value that they receive. The dollars they give you are low, even though it's a 6-7-figure, multi-million-dollar contract. The dollars that the value that they'll get is even higher because they're going to make a return on that investment. That's the first piece. Once you dive into that, then you need to know, okay, with this segment or this customer, like this industry, what are our wins? What are the case studies? What are the resources we can give people? If they're not ready to work with us, how do we build relationship? Do we invite them to a live event? Do we have a conference, have a workshop? Do you have a front end product? Do you have some sort of package product? You got to have all those assets assembled. And then we need to know, what is their actual pain? Even if you don't have everything dialed in here, you don't have to. You'll dive more into this in the rest of the process. You need to know specifically, what are they going through? And why does this pain matter to them? Like for this particular segment, for these personas that I sell into, the economic buyer, the influencer, decision maker, why do they care about this pain? What is their different take on that pain? Because they have different perspectives depending on that. The CTO has a different perspective than the CFO. And you're usually having different conversations for the same problem, the same solution, depending on the person you're talking to. And then the final one is, what information do I need to make an inference? And this is where AI comes in, to make an inference on their pain. Like, what can I assume or create based on the information that I know and what they might be facing? So at least you're not going in blind and you're spamming a list of 10,000 prospects saying, hopefully you'll buy. Here, you're being more strategic. And then finally, you want to obviously know what qualifies them, like certain qualifications, revenue size, team size, problem, etc. So the simple qualification. And then here's the process I go through, and I leverage technology, AI, all the API, whatever. If there's an API, I probably used it, and I've spent a ridiculous. I've never spent so much money on SaaS, and I've never spent so much money on AI. Let's just put it that way.
Same. same, but they're helpful, so I'm happy to spend that money.
It's almost like an employee. All right, so the first one is I need to develop the buyer's journey. And this is very simple, but figuring out where are they in the buyer's journey and what instances would trigger that they're entering a buyer's journey for my particular product. You'd use deep search for this. You'd use research. You'd use client calls. You'd use any data points that you have from the CRM, from your engagement, from customer success. What triggers? Why do they buy from us, or why do they reach out to us? And from there, building a case. Okay, this is the beginning of the first block. The second is I like to do market research and segment analysis. I want to figure out, okay, what's happening in this particular industry? Is there regulation? Is there, like recently, are there tariffs? Like what's going on in the global economic situation? What's going on internally? What countries do we sell into? What are they facing right now? So figuring out not just, okay, they're going to grow from X to X in 30 years or whatever, 10 years. It's more about they're facing this pressure because they need to move out of manufacturing in this country by X time, or they're going to get feed or something. That's a real scenario, but I won't go too much detail. But you need to figure out specifically what's happening in the market and then get an analysis of that. Here, I like to use tools like Rocket Reach, OpenAI, Deep Search. Like, again, the tools don't matter. What matters is what are you getting out of it. And this is actually an important point. With the cost of AI going dramatically cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, it's going to be used. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I think it's Jurgensen's law. It starts with a J, but it's a law that as the cost of something goes down, the usage doubles. So the tools will become a commodity. It's now becoming, it's always been, but it's going to be like a hammer. Like if you give me a hammer, I may not be able to build a beautiful house. Right. I don't know how. But this is where your craftsmanship comes through when you're using these tools. So I'll name some tools here, but don't be locked into these tools.
Also, because there are so many, like it's really insane. Like if you type out video editing AI tools and you have like 500 options and you don't even know what to choose anymore. It's like, okay.
They change every week and they update every week. And then now with the DeepSeek moment, everyone is, it's a beautiful thing for the consumers, for the end users, us, because now everyone's like, oh, I got to go even harder and develop and give away more. So I'm happy for them. So market research, and then from there I figure out what are the metrics or the KPIs that my personas in this target segment care about. And this is a very simple oversimplification, but every single business in the world needs to acquire customers. They need to make a profit. You need to keep customers for a very long time. So the macro, the top line KPIs are always acquisition, LTV, profit. So figuring out what metrics matter to them. Obviously, we're not going to just say, oh, LTV matters to them. You need to figure out specifically for the persona, what are they responsible for? What are they going to get fired if they don't hit? Right. So what KPI matters to your persona per industry, per the offer that you're giving them. So we're drilling down. And then finally, I want to dive into developing a value prop. So based on all this information, what is a simple value prop per persona? Finally, we get to the business case. And this is everything that I just talked about. Customer segment, business model, aligns with your culture, is relevant to them. You got an offer when you're going to market. Now we're consolidating all into one. Maybe it's like a player's card, like a flashcard, but this is what I call a business case. And the business case is essentially, who is your ideal client? Job functions, company size, key signals, when do they enter the market? What is our offering? What do we offer? How does it solve? What is the value prop? And then we dive into the pain point business case. Per pain that they have, how do we solve it? How does life look after we solve it? What is the cost of not taking action? And then when they take action, what does life look like? And then finally, what is a pain point that we can question or infer? Because here you can use something like Sonnet or Opus from Anthropic to take all this data and create an inference question. How are you leveraging this key thing to solve this key problem? And I'll show you how we actually use that in Clay. And then from there, we look at, now we have our player's card. And we look at, okay, what data is publicly available on the internet? Because a lot of data is. What data can I look up to actually reach out to this person or get information to build a list? Now, for list building, I come from the direct response advertising world. So to me, it's like audience building. List building is
Mhm.
audience building. You got your top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. If you're in
Yeah.
BD, you're probably already like done with bottom of funnel. If you're not, talk to your customer success, talk to your communities, talk to wherever your customers are hanging out, get referrals, etc. But usually you're going to be hanging out in top of funnel and middle of funnel.
Mhm.
So the lists that I built out are top of funnel, curated list based on all of our findings, ICP, fact-based signals, like things that you can actually measure. Not like,
Mhm.
oh, I think they might have it. It's not assumptions. They're things that you can measure.
Yeah.
The second one is I like to do a broad list filtered by the qualifications that we care about. If you care about a certain tech stack, if you care about a certain vendor relationship, if you care about, oh, they were growing in this department, like this company, like based on our ICP, they're growing X% over the last 8 quarters in this department. They're investing in engineering, investing in sales, cutting in customer support. This is something where you can go into. And you can
Mhm.
easily drill down nowadays with tools like Rocket Reach and Clay, etc.
Perfect.
You can also build lookalikes. I can keep going, but you build
Yeah,
lookalikes,
yeah, yeah.
clients, ABM. So it's like it becomes endless of what you can do, but you can only do that if you know who am I talking to? What are the pain points? Why is
Mhm.
this relevant?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I totally agree with you that there is really an obsession, for just like doing things, but nobody really stops to think, and I see it, very often with our students as well, like many, for example, they come to us as like, oh, I want to know about tools and just tell me about tools and AI. I'm like, yeah, sure, come, we're going to talk also about the tools, but then in reality, many of them, they really don't know who they're talking to. Even when they try, they attempt to have some sort of like signals and, use some sort of insights, from their audience, then it really doesn't amount to much because, again, there isn't really this exercise done before, of really like stopping, taking a moment to reflect and really just say, okay, what are we doing here? Like, is it even worth it to keep reaching out to these people? Or maybe there is a better way of doing it, and I think majority of the time when things don't work out, it is because of this. It's because we're mindlessly doing things, trying to do things, and then it doesn't work. Like, yeah, okay, this doesn't work. Cold outreach is dead. Cold calling is dead. That's typically
Oh yeah.
the answer, right? Like, it doesn't work. I was like, okay, but how many people did you reach out to? 10. And which industries? Oh, these 10 industries. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Like
10.
saying exercise doesn't work. This is the thing that I want to drive home too, is that don't let growth depend on you. Let growth depend on your systems or your frameworks. Like I'm training for a half Ironman. I got to do 70 miles. I've never done that before. If I depended on me, I would maybe think I'm working out hard. But I bought a program and I'm following the program. And now I have a fitness level that I didn't have before because I'm actually working out very hard. So my thing is that dependency is I'm following a framework that's proven to work. So when you follow the framework, it's less about is the framework flawed? It's more about what are the quality of my inputs and execution in that framework. Because it's literally when you say, oh, cold calling doesn't work, cold email doesn't work, sending postcards doesn't work, showing up to offices doesn't work. It's like saying exercise doesn't work. Guaranteed exercise will always work if you're a regular, normal human being, not an AI. But
You never know nowadays.
I
With all the AI avatars making videos, we are real. So you're real, right? No,
hope so.
we are real. That's good. We're real.
Yeah, but that's why we really want to focus on systemic growth and taking it away from one individual. And companies that are listening to this also have this issue with their team and employees, taking it away from you being the dependency, your team being the dependency, making it more on what are the frameworks that I need that I can build a system, and then it becomes testing the inputs. The framework works. Saying outreach doesn't work would be like you and I would never have this podcast. Outreach works. The whole idea is what will work for my particular business, my market, and I just have to test it. And if you have the right framework and you're aggressive and you're knowing I have to test to make things work, and sometimes I'm not going to get it right the first time, but I know that in the game of life, usually it's 3 times I have to test, or as long as 10 times I have to test, I will find something. Then the game that I would play is how can I test as quickly as humanly possible to get to the 10 and work with experts like you or for the BD school or collaborate with me and figure out, okay, I can cut my wasted effort from failing 10 times, maybe to only 4 times or 3 times. So that's the thing you're to think about. And that's why I think really if it takes you weeks, take 3 weeks, develop the strategy, work with your customer success, work with the customer information that you already have, listen in on sales calls, talk to customers, like interview people. And then from there, develop these strategies. And then when you go to market, you'll find that it becomes like Lego blocks. You can literally then do any tactic with this framework.
Yeah, totally. And that's something actually I really love about you. So for everyone listening, you should definitely join the newsletter and follow Raul on LinkedIn, because what I like about your content is that it's always super practical. And I mean, just like you're doing now, but I like that you systemize everything. And I'm a freak for processes. So I love to have processes. It's like, I feel it gives so much confidence. It's just like you were saying, I think the gym analogy was really relevant for me, because I did the same. I had a personal trainer at some point that, even though it was taking me a while to get results, but I was seeing results and I was like, okay, I can do it myself. And then, well, accountability is an issue, which is the same, the gym, but also like with no, but honestly, also with writing like cold emails, like one thing we do, for example, with our students, if they use cold outreach, is like, okay, now this week you write 5 personalized emails per day, every day. And, and then you time yourself and you see how long it takes you, because I know that 100% of the times by the Friday, they become really skilled at doing that fast, because nobody wants to spend hours on an email, right? But many, they just don't do it. He was like, hey, but I didn't have the time and this. I was like, yeah, okay, but then this is not gonna work, just do it. Follow the process. It works, but I don't know. I do love to follow processes, because it removes a lot of the guesswork, but also indeed the moments in which you just don't really feel like doing it. Well, you just have to follow the steps, and then whatever happens, happens. But at least you're, okay with yourself that you did your part, right? But changing a little bit topic, I mean, not much, because it's actually still about AI. You dropped a name, which is Clay. And I think Clay is together with ChatGPT and the Perplexity, is the tool that has seen absolutely the most often on LinkedIn in the recent days. Tell me something more about it, because I was considering to try it out, but then I was like, yeah, okay, there are so many use cases for it, and I don't know, I felt a little bit lazy, honestly. So how do you use it, and is it worth it? Is the hype about Clay worth it?
Yeah, it is. It's like muddy putty. You can do anything with it, which becomes complicated because you can do everything with it. So that's the good of it, and that's also, oh crap, I can do everything. What should I do? And if you follow this strategy, life becomes easy. So one of the things that we do with teams is, depending on where we're getting the prospect, we have AI automatically qualify them, see if they're a good fit. How do we do that? The business case that we just did. Can we solve their problem? Are they a persona? And then AI does it for you. You actually just hook up your API. A few things that I do in there are prospect insights. So to email writing, for you, to that point, a lot of my clients, they don't have time. Some of them are founders and they're super busy, or they're like senior level. They don't have time for prospecting for 90 minutes a day. Some of them have 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. It's like, how do I solve this problem? So I use Clay to solve a problem internally. And then that became something that's actually very valuable for a lot of people when I talk to more and more sales executives. So the thing that we do, depending on your lead source, if it's, again, the lead source is variable, that's your audience, what we just talked about. Depending on how you build those audiences, you want to qualify them, use OpenAI API. You want to get insights. Why is this person qualified? Check their LinkedIn, scrape anything that they talked about. Do research on them. You can have AI do research on that particular person, and you can have a simple research report. Here's where they worked. Here's some of the key insights about them. Here's some of the things that they're working through. Here's some known facts about what they've mentioned relevant to our products or services. And then from there, I use Sonnet or Anthropic. This always changes, by the way. In the past, I used Opus from Anthropic. Now I use Sonnet because it's much better. The models increase and they'll change. We'll see when Anthropic drops their next model. This is February 19th, 2025. So we'll see. O3 dropped as well. So you got a lot of developments. But then I take all that information from the detailed report, from the prospect, from their LinkedIn, from the company website, from our business case, and I consolidate it into an inference where I want AI to dive into that particular person, see the problem that they might be facing, see the problems that we solve for them based on everything that we've developed, and then create an inference question saying, hey, Ushi, it looks like you're X, Y, and Z. Based on that, how are you solving this particular problem? Obviously, we're not going to use that for an email, but it gets your engines turning. And you're like, oh, I don't really have to do all this clicking around in research. And I also give a confidence score on the research report. So the AI will tell you, I'm very confident, I'm somewhat confident, I'm very low confident on this report. For low confident reports, you want to do your own research. But this saves you legitimately, like he's a mentor and a friend, but he went from like 60 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to down to like 20 minutes just to write 5 emails, or like maybe 5 to 10. Because the whole idea is like you use this with whatever outreach you're doing. If you are doing cold email, then yeah, you can automate this. There's so much that you can do with it. But my goal with it is more data. I want to be able to consolidate and extract data at scale. And then from there, you can act on that data, and Clay allows you to act on that data. But I don't use it for mass emails.
Yeah, and I think in this case, AI can really be helpful, because I really see it also with our students. Like, the majority of the time they spend it is really on the research, really on researching the prospects, researching the accounts, and so on. But especially if they're junior, it's not their fault, right? So they're just new to that company, they're new to the field, so obviously they don't have the right business acumen, right? To say, okay, wait a minute, this person posted this, that means X, Y, Z, right? And I think AI in this case can really be helpful, because then, first of all, it's going to save them a lot of time. So that's already a big advantage. But then also it helps them to become like expert faster, right? Because then you see like how the AI interacts with these data points, what is suggestion, then hopefully if you're a little bit smart and able to read, which I think that's all you need, then you are actually able to develop also this business sense. It's like, oh, wait a minute, like 9 out of 10 these prospects, they had this problem, so wait a minute, maybe this is the main problem, right? So I think that can really help people also, like, as I said, become expert. Yeah, totally.
It can help shape you. Sorry, just to add to that point, this is very, very important, and this is something that I've been preaching and will continue to preach. I think you need to do the hard thing first and do this without AI. Because I think you need before you do all this stuff, I think you need to know, what does good actually look like from your own experience or from someone else who is an expert in that. Because if you don't, then you can be easily led astray if you don't know what good looks like. So it's a fine line, right? Because the two skill sets, in my opinion, for the future, the first skill set is knowing how to work these tools and manage them, knowing how to use the new hammer and being effective, because each tool, each API has its own feel. I don't know how to describe it. It's like working with a different person. I know if I say these words in this syntax, it's going to behave a certain way. And I know that when I talk to this one, I have to use formatting in a different way. Or if I talk to, Perplexity or do R1 search, I have to do something very different. So I know what I'm going to get per tool. So there's a nuanced take to that. Plus, you also have to know how to manage them, like you're managing a team member. So that's the most essential skill set for the future. The second is creativity and innovation, which is problem solving. Because if the cost is going to go down, like super, super cheap, like the cost to build, we're in an age of abundance, really. The cost is going to go down, and it's the value of a good idea or the value of solving a very difficult problem. And in order to solve a difficult problem, you need to know the ins and the outs.
Yeah. No, and I totally agree with this. Also with our students, when they come, like, we have a lot of templates, but they're mostly spreadsheets. And I'm really adamant on that. It's like, at the end of the day, a spreadsheet, you can translate it into whatever tool, right? You can use whatever project management tool, AI, anything, right? So you can translate it in that. But the main point of using spreadsheets is that it obliges you to think about the logic behind what you're doing. It's not just about, getting an amazing list of contacts. Oh, wow, great. No, it's like, why do you choose these specific contacts? Like what it is that makes them unique. So I'm totally on board with that. I think like we're kind of like you're my male version and vice versa, because I literally say exactly the same things to our students. It's like, Totally spot on, but it is so true, And again, I think it all comes down to the fact that, I mean, we all want to make our life easier, right? And,
Yeah.
just get to the point and get to the outcomes. But again, like we're not going to get much outcome if we don't put the hard work first. So yeah, totally agree. And, just talking a little bit about do good work and what you do, what type of companies do you help and what problems do you help them solve?
Oh, it's a great lead in. I really focus on building systemic growth. So getting growth out of the individual, if it's a founder or a certain team, and then building growth through systems. If that's with go-to-market strategies, if that's with business development and growth strategies, if that's with leadership or just like execution strategies. The companies that I primarily work with are selling up 6 to 7 figure relationships, and they don't need to sell like 100 accounts a year. They're focusing on a good handful, maybe 10, 20, 30. Like if they did that, it would be a fantastic year because these are high touch relationships, or they're working through like management or leadership. Like I have some clients that have hundreds of customers. Well, one in particular, but that's very rare. They're a market leader. So they're working through some growth trajectories. And so yeah, anything around growth, systemic growth, and getting growth out of an individual to build the framework that's proven, like space to work on, also helping you test it out and implement it with you so that we can actually make things work. If not, then I do have like guarantees that if it's not going to work, we're not going to work with each other.
Nice. And, what is the best case you worked on, like without mentioning names, of course, but everybody has a favorite client, in a way. So do you have one? And what was the case about?
I have multiple.
Me
The
too,
one
but
that's
let's be mean. Like,
no, well,
let's
the
be
most
one.
recent. I'll highlight this. This is the most recent. She thinks I'm always BSing her, but the mission that she's on is to help. She runs a digital marketing firm, but the mission that she's on is to really make part-time mom work a reality.
Oh, nice.
Because she's a mom, I think of 4 or 5 now, and she hired other moms. I'm like, that's such a cool mission because that's such a missing piece in the workplace. And like I see like my wife or like whatever, like or just the dynamics of being a parent just helps me. Like it changed a lot. Like that's freaking awesome. But no, she's grown incredibly. Obviously, it's not to say, oh, it's all me. Your offer has to be good, the market has to be prime, and like you have to be really like focused. So she's all of that, and we refine the offer and the go-to-market, et cetera. But she's grown, I think, and this is again, I'm not just trying to quote a number. I think she's grown about 3.5x since working with each other over the last 18 months. But I think that's a really cool case study. I've others that we could talk about too, but that one's my favorite because it's not just growth for growth's sake. The relationship that she's building, the work that they do, and also the mission that they stand for. I like that. It's different.
Oh, nice. Yeah, very, very cool indeed. It's because I mean, it all comes down to purpose, right? And what's the purpose behind things, which I think it's also like, yeah, another interesting topic when it comes to, business developers specifically. Like, so I have a lot of people, especially if they work with, let's say, a bit bigger companies and so on. They don't really manage to get results. But when I talk to them, I realize that the main problem is that they're not really passionate about what they're doing, mostly because what they're doing is either, I don't want to say boring, but like they don't see it as it's really adding value. I think purpose is super important. So, what is your purpose?
Oh, my purpose is to help grow and build up.
Nice.
I may have that written down somewhere. So
yeah, that's good. I'm gonna check your website. But besides the
no, this is my personal, like my personal thing is to grow and to help others grow and build up.
Why it is important to you?
There's a lot of different aspects from my faith, from the way that I grew up, and just my talents. Like, what am I actually really exceptionally good at? What do people tell me that I do? What do I naturally akin to? And to your point, I think we have to love, even if it's boring, and even though it's really hard, you do have to love part of what you do because you have to be obsessed, in my opinion. You can't just think about your thing from 9 to 5. I think there has to be a healthy obsession, and we already are obsessed with things, right? Maybe you're obsessed with coffee like I am, or maybe you're obsessed with sugar. There you go. But we have these obsessions, and I think if you get to choose the obsession, it's because you found something that you love about it, even though sometimes life is hard. Because life is hard. right? And there's nothing that's going to be easy. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
punched in the face plenty of times. But I think the key thing is, what is it about the process that you can actually enjoy that is alignment with who you are, and it becomes part of your identity, not in a unhealthy sense where like, oh, your work is your life and you've lost all your relationships, but you're making good money. Like I've worked with those too. Um, I think the key thing is having a healthy obsession, knowing what drives you, what your particular gift is. And for me, I think Naval talks about this. Like when you're early on, I think your parents know what you're going to be when you grow up because
Mm-hmm.
they just see where you're at play. Like what are you naturally akin to? And like reflect on that. Even if you had a bad childhood, reflect on your friends. What do they tell you? So it's like you find that and you find that thing that you're crafted and that you're talented for, that you just try to apply it.
Nice. And so what was your talent when you were a kid? You know, like can you like do you think you're aligned with your talents and what you're supposed to be doing, right? So really your mission in life. And is it something that your parents saw when you were a kid?
Yeah, yeah. So my dad told me that I would be a teacher. Clearly
Mhm.
not a teacher, but doing it in a different way. Um, so creating, I would always create, and I find passion in solving very, very difficult problems. It's like play, even though I spend hours.
Mhm.
Like the AI stuff, like that thing that I just told you about. My goodness, like ridiculous amount of hours just trying to solve some of these things. Because when it doesn't work, you're like, crap, I gotta troubleshoot it. Um, and teaching, like teaching or helping people see a breakthrough and simplifying it in a way where we can actually apply it and encouraging you to, even though when you fail, you can keep going.
Nice. And Raul, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in this? I don't know, even for how long we're talking. It's been almost 1 hour. That's I didn't even realize actually. Is there
It was fast.
anything do you know that you didn't that I didn't ask you, or maybe you didn't say that you think it's important for people to listen to?
I think we dove into the relationships. That's the most important. The tools come and go, so don't get married to them. Always test. With this new era, no one's a true expert, in my humble opinion. I might sound like one with AI. You might sound like one. Only the ones that are developing them are actual true experts, but they are also super in deep research mode, and they're not practical appliers in the economic. Like, what are we doing
Mm-hmm.
for in real life? For us, like, how do we like use this in day to day? So the only way to do that is for you to go in and unhesitatingly sign up for whatever tool that you think might be a good fit and give it a shot. Go on demo calls, do trials, pay for demos, like whatever you need to do that it aligns. Because right now you are in testing mode, and the faster you find something that works, the better. Because I don't think there's a proven method of here's the core of what's going to work. There is also and it's in the BD world, there is also the antithesis that, oh, OpenAI just came out with an SDR. All these other
Mm-hmm.
companies like 11x is coming out with like their own SDRs. So how are they building it? What are you doing? How are you staying in front of the game? How are you leveraging this? How are you amplifying your outputs so that
Mm-hmm.
you are no longer one for one, but anytime that you do an action or a job, you're a 3 for 1, meaning you execute at the 3x pace of someone else. Maybe for some of you, that might be a 5x, a 10x, 11x pace. And that's not a false hype. That is something that I've experienced myself. So lean into testing and figuring out what works, but don't forget about the principles and the framework, because they're principles like gravity. Regardless of what you do, gravity will be here.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on the principles first, test the tools and figure out what can work and find what works fast.
Great. Well, oh, thank you so much. Actually, in our conversation, we also said maybe we should share screens and show how it works. But well, since it's already 1 hour, I don't know how your day looks like, but here in the Netherlands, it's almost night already. So it's 6:30 p.m. So I think we are not going to be able to do that. But I extend an invite actually to do another session where we can really show how you use these AI tools. And, if you have frameworks or systems that you feel like sharing with our community, I think that would be great, very helpful. And of course, if there are like business owners listening here, startup founders, and you're struggling with, let's say, everything commercially related, business development, and you want an expert to help you out, I think Raul is a great guy. I know that he did help me a lot for free. He did say at the beginning, right? Help out and give value. He shared with me a lot of frameworks that he used, a lot of tools that I also adopted. So just go ahead and reach out. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Raul, if someone wants to connect with you?
You can just email me at Raul@dogoodwork.com. dogoodwork.io, or just go to the website dogoodwork.io.
Great, which are going to be all in the description below. So Raul, thank you so much once again. And yeah, we're going to talk soon, I guess.
This was fun. Thank you for having me.
Subscribe and listen to more episodes of Let's Talk BD podcast.